Oh, yeah.
Just don't be long. Wow, 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 friendly.
In the beginning of this movie, we see a couple named Will and Suzanne. They are very happy because they just got married. After their wedding farewell, they leave to start their new life. However, one person in all of this is very upset, and his name is Diggs. He is sitting on the side, looking very sad. The reason? Diggsy was deeply in love with Suzanne. They had spent a lot of time together, but Suzanne ended up marrying someone else. While Diggsy is sitting there lost in thought, one of his friends comes over to cheer him up. His friend tells him to forget about Suzanne and start fresh, but it's not easy for Diggsy to move on. Diggsy is walking on the street and records a voice message for Suzanne. He struggles to send a positive message, but eventually, he sends it, wishing her happiness forever.
All I want is for you to be happy.
Later, Diggsy goes to a bar to drink. While he's there, a man named Mortimer sits next to him and starts talking. Diggsy asks Mortimer if he was also at the wedding, to which Mortimer replies he isn't. Mortimer then tells Diggsy a story. He says he once dated a girl named Candy, who later became intimate with Mortimer's best friend. Mortimer sarcastically shares this story because he, too, was abandoned by someone he loved. Mortimer tells Diggsy how, after being left by his girlfriend, he was miserable and spent all his time drinking. One day, a strange man approached Mortimer and gave him something. That man told Mortimer, "You can use this if you need it, but if you don't, you must give it to someone who truly does." Mortimer handed a paper bag to Diggs. When Diggsy opened it, he found a key inside. The paper explained that the key could open doors to parallel universes. However, once someone enters a parallel universe, they cannot return to their original one. Diggsy doesn't believe Mortimer's story. Mortimer encourages him to use the key to find his lost love in a different universe. In parallel universes, Diggs' crush Suzanne exists in various versions. Now, Diggsy must figure out if this key is real or if Mortimer is just joking with him. That night, Diggsy places the key on his table and falls asleep. The next day, he meets Suzanne and is about to confess his feelings but holds back. By now, it's too late because Suzanne is married. Suzanne asks about the book Diggsy is writing, and he replies that it's a love story. Then, someone interrupts their conversation and challenges Diggsy and Suzanne to a wrestling match. Afterward, Diggsy goes home. Later, Diggsy visits a library and finds a book about parallel universes. This reminds him of the key. Curious, he inserts the key into a random door. To use the key, one has to place it in any door lock and open it to access a parallel universe. As Diggsy is about to try it, a girl interrupts him. He decides to wait and goes to a cafe instead, where he uses his laptop to research parallel universes. A waiter notices him and starts talking, so Diggsy closes his laptop and leaves. At home, Diggsy finally uses the key on his door. At first, everything seems normal, and he feels disappointed. But when he opens his room's door, he finds himself in a different place and realizes the key actually works. He enters another universe where things are slightly different. Eventually, he finds Suzanne in one of the universes, but even in this universe, she is already married. Heartbroken, Diggsy travels to yet another universe. In this universe, Susan wasn't married, but the problem was that Diggsy himself was married. His wife and son arrived, with a child in her arms. Diggsy was shocked and quickly left for another universe. He kept traveling through many universes. Sometimes Susan was pregnant, sometimes she was in a relationship with someone else, and sometimes she had a daughter. After exploring countless universes, Diggsy reached one where he met Susan's cafe. But instead of Susan, he encountered a woman named Daphne. Though Diggsy was seeing her for the first time, Daphne acted as if she had always known him. While they were talking, Diggsy suddenly saw his alternate universe self entering the cafe. Surprised, he quickly hid under the table. After the alternate Diggsy left, Daphne asked him questions, curious if he was some kind of alien or clone. Diggsy tried to explain things, but before he could, a customer interrupted, and he had to promise her he'd explain everything later. That night, they spent time together, and Diggsy shared everything about the parallel universes and his search for Susan. During their conversation, they unexpectedly kissed, and things grew more intimate between them. The next morning, both were a little unsure about what had happened the previous night, but Diggsy felt a connection with Daphne. Despite this, he still wanted to find Susan because she was his first love. Diggsy kept traveling through universes, and in one of them, he found a version of Daphne near a swimming pool. This Daphne hugged him tightly because, in her universe, the Diggsy she knew had passed away. Later, Diggsy goes to Daphne's house and explained everything again. Daphne started to understand, but when he decided to leave for another universe, she stopped him, asking him to stay. However, Diggsy was determined, opened a new door to another universe, and left. This time, Daphne followed him through the portal. Now stuck in this new universe, the door closed behind them, leaving Daphne unable to return to her original world. They explored this universe together, and over time, Daphne began to develop feelings for Diggsy. But Diggsy still wanted closure regarding Susan. One day, during a party in a different universe, a man stole Diggsy's key and opened a portal, showing everyone the magic of the door. He pushed the guy out of the portal and shut it, taking the door key and leaving the guy stranded. Diggsy ended up meeting a version of Susan who recognized him as her college friend. They celebrated and spent time together, but Diggsy realized that this Susan had also moved on. Despite feeling hopeless, Diggsy decided to not let go of his obsession with finding Susan. Daphne, who had become a significant part of his life, also chose to stay back in this universe because in this universe, the Susan is a lesbian and they had spent the last night together. Now she don't want to go back with Diggsy and stay in this universe. Diggsy gave her a heartfelt goodbye and traveled to yet another universe. This time, he reached his apartment and found a package waiting for him at his door. In one universe, he finds Susan, who is in her final days. She has cancer and doesn't know how much time she has left. He approaches her, and they talk. He tells her that he isn't the real Diggsy of this universe. At first, Susan doubts him, but then she notices that he doesn't have the tattoo on his hand that the real Diggsy had. She starts to understand the situation. They talk more, and he tells her that ever since they met for the first time when he was 9 years old, he had been in love with her. He admits that he has traveled across countless universes searching for a version of her that truly loves him back. Susan responds that she could have been perfect for him, but her time is running out. If she weren't sick, she might have chosen him as her partner. Hearing this, Diggsy is devastated, feeling like he has found his soulmate but lost her at the same time. With a heavy heart, he leaves that universe and continues searching. In another universe, he meets Gwen, who seems to understand him. Diggsy explains everything that has happened to him so far and shows her proof, which makes her believe him. They grow closer, and Gwen takes him to her house. Diggsy starts to feel like he might have found peace. They share a kiss, and he begins to settle into this new life. He even starts working at a coffee shop with Gwen and feels like he has found true happiness. One day, Susan from this universe visits the coffee shop. She recognizes Diggsy and starts a conversation with him. She notices that something is different about him and asks why his face doesn't have the same mischievous look it used to have. Diggsy tries to avoid the topic but eventually ends up being invited to dinner at her place. During dinner, Diggsy reveals everything to Susan. He explains the events of his life, including all the universes he has visited and the challenges he has faced. Susan feels a strange connection to him as he shares his story. She also opens up about her memories, mentioning how they used to play hide-and-seek together as kids, and how she would always hide with him because she felt safe. Diggsy returns home feeling torn between Gwen and Susan. Susan arrives unexpectedly and confesses that she still has feelings for him, which causes a heated argument between the two women. Gwen becomes angry and accuses Susan of crossing boundaries. In the chaos, Susan accidentally activates the portal to another universe, causing Gwen to get trapped in it. Diggsy is devastated, realizing that Gwen might never return. Feeling completely shattered, he leaves the universe and decides to stop looking for love. Eventually, Diggsy starts living a simple life in another universe. He builds a routine, makes new friends, and writes a book based on his journey, which becomes successful. One day, while visiting the library, he feels a familiar presence and turns around. Standing there is a version of Gwen. Seeing her fills him with hope, and he wonders if this time, he will finally get his happy ending.